Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neelam Malkani. I'm going to be a facilitator and guide for CAT. Thank you very much for joining me for this video. In today's session, I'm going to take you to a very important topic of CAT, that is Jumble. But before that, let me introduce myself. So I possess around 12 years of experience in test preparation industry, and I have trained the aspirants of CAT, GRE and GMAT scoring well in a targeted exam. My authority lies in two sections that are English and verbal reasoning. I also had the opportunity of setting and designing assessment papers for various governing bodies as well as for professional bodies. I have also served as an examiner for an international exam. Recently, I have authored a comprehensive book in English for the preparation of competitive. So this is my body of work that gives me enough confidence to claim that I can help you with your preparation for CAT. Now this video is brought to you by India's largest online learning platform, Unacademy. So let me guide you how you can be part of this learning. So let me take you step by step at what you have to do to join this course or join this platform. You have to go in the Play Store and download Unacademy Learning app. You will be given two versions of Learning app. Unacademy app, you have to download the Learning app. Once you download that, you will be shown three categories: plus, free courses, and special classes. You have to opt for plus in order to attend the classes. Once you do that, you will be shown all the products which are offered by Unacademy. You have to opt for the course that you are aiming at. So in this section, you will go for that. When you go for that, you will be directed to the subscription model. Before that, you will be told all the features which are offered for this course, including 30 hours of live session every day. So as per your convenience, as per your own availability, you can attend the session that you want to attend. The courses are well structured and designed by experienced faculties, and the courses are delivered in both Hindi and English. You will find 14 plus top educators who have extensive experience mentoring and guiding students various content. And every month you get to see a new course being published. Once you go in the subscription, you will be shown all the models of subscription as per your needs and as per your own requirements. You can choose the subscription that suits your needs the best. If you want to avail further discount, you have to type this code in order to avail 10% discount. Once you do that, you are good to go. So what are you waiting for? Come and join this course and let me help you with my knowledge and wisdom with your preparation. So let's get started with today's topic. As I told you, we are going to discuss what Jumbles are and why this section is so much important. So Jumbles, as the name itself suggests, are basically jumbled sentences. A paragraph is fragmented into sentences. You have to find the sequence of those jumbled sentences and make a coherent, meaningful paragraph. That is what your task is. This has been a constant feature not only of CAT, of all management exams. Take name of any management exam, be it SNAP, ZAT, MAT, TEST, you will find Jumble question. It has been a consistent feature of all management entrance exams. So you cannot avoid it. Now, Let's try and understand the different varieties of parajumble questions which have appeared in different years in these management exams. The most common one is the 4 or 5 sentences jumble form. Paragraph is divided into 4 or 5 sentences. The sentences are given in a random order. You will have to find the order of those sentences. So that's the most common variety that you will very likely encounter in your exam. In 2018 and in 2019 CAT, 4 sentences were given in parajumble. Another variety is when where opening statement is given, followed by 4 or 5 sentences which are to be arranged. Right? You don't have to find the opening statement, you just have to find the sequence of those sentences which are given after the opening statement. Third is the opening statement and the concluding statement. Both are given. In between these 2 sentences, you will be given 4 or 5 sentences. You will have to find the order of these sentences only. It is in their relationship with the opening and concluding statement. They are not to be fiddled with. The opening and the concluding statement are fixed. So the sentences between these 2 sentences are to be arranged only. Now this is the variety which has been introduced in CAT. This is specifically confined to CAT only so far. So here, you won't be given any option. You will be given 4 sentences. The options are not there. You have to type in your answer. So it was introduced by CAT and it has been regularly featuring in CAT every year. For this, definitely the difficulty level is compounded because you are not given any option to work around. You have to do everything on your own. So there could be possibly 24 answers of this question to go by the capability, right? So the confusion is definitely more. But if you work around some strategies and if you work on your basics of understanding a paragraph, you'll find your way around this set of questions. The last one is odd sentence out. I have categorized this question as one of the varieties of parajumble only because what you have to do here is you have to make a paragraph with 3 sentences. The 4th sentence, which is not gelling into the paragraph, which you don't find fitting into the paragraph, is your answer. What you have to do is apply the same skill that you do for parajumble. Right? So it actually calls for similar kinds of skill. A bit of fine-tuning of strategy is needed for this question, but more or less this is also parajumble only because 4 sentences are given. 1 sentence does not integrate into your paragraph, but 3 sentences are making your paragraph. Right? So you have to make a paragraph and find a sentence which that paragraph does not accommodate. Right? So I hope we are clear with the variety of parajumble questions. So whichever variety or whichever type of question you encounter, whichever variety or type of question you deal with, the strategy to deal with these questions remain more or less same. In today's session, we are going to discuss those strategies and some tips and tricks to deal with this question skillfully. Now, let's see why these questions are so important. So as I said, they have been regularly appearing in management entrance exam. Hardly there was any year when parajumble question was not in CAT or management entrance exam. It has been a consistent feature. Now, among 10 questions of verbal ability, if we specifically talk about CAT, so 10 questions of verbal ability till 2019 pattern, 3 to 5 questions are from parajumble section, right? So that make up somewhere around 15% of that verbal section. So section itself is, carry a lot of weightage. So if you excel in this section, your accuracy level can go higher. For CAT per se, there is no negative marking. So I would advise that you do attempt these questions because we are not going to attract any penalty for marking a wrong answer. Parajumble are also very important because this is one of those sections where you can improve your skills dramatically within a very short span of time. Your understanding and your logic, if you interplay with these two skills, you can increase your accuracy in a very short span of time. Of course, with a lot of practice. Right? So I have seen a lot of students who have trained over a period of time excelling in this section despite not being very good at English. They were not very good at English. Nonetheless, they excelled in this section because it's for them like solving a puzzle. So this is what makes this section all the more important. And it is probably one of those few areas in which the scope of ambiguity is limited. In solve RC, reading comprehension, you possibly always have this dilemma whether this question is right, this option is correct, or this option is incorrect. You possibly are not sure about marking your answers with certainty. But in parajumble question, you can have certainty because it's based on some application. If you apply those rules clearly and correctly, you can have accuracy in this set of questions. Okay? Now, let's try to understand why this section or this set of questions has been a consistent feature. Why do all examiners find it an interesting tool, find an important tool to test some of your skills? Why has it been part and parcel of management exams? Right? So, what is it that this section aims to test? So, what I have figured out is I have listed these three things that possibly are being tested with this set of questions. First of all, your understanding of writing convention, right? So it may sound a bit, strange that how a reading comprehension question or a manageable question tests your understanding of writing convention. If you have seen carefully, all management entrance exams have moved from their conventional strategy to a different strategy now. They want to test your writing ability, and that is why they have done away with GD. A lot of schools have done away with GD and they have introduced writing assessment tests. So they want to test your writing ability. Now, how Parajumble is testing your writing ability? There are standard conventions which are followed by writers. All good authors and writers abide by those standard conventions of writing. And there are some conventions of writing a paragraph as well. So if you are familiar with those standards, you will have crystal clarity about what constitutes a paragraph. And it will also sharpen your skill in writing. Because if you know what a paragraph is composed of, you will have greater authority when you write your assessment test. Writing. Second is your application of grammar. So application of grammar, because certain grammatical rules will be applicable when you solve algebra question. Usage of article, usage of pronoun, noun and pronoun, or usage of linking words, how they are used, what purpose do they serve, right? So understanding of grammar will also be played here. Last is your logic and your reasoning. Now in next slide, let's try to understand how these areas are tested. So writing convention, you need to know how an idea is introduced in a paragraph, right? So where does author mention his idea first and how he extends that idea further with supporting details, examples, evidence, right? So you have to understand this constitution of the paragraph. And last, how that idea is concluded. So your writing convention, if you are familiar with these writing conventions, you will find it easier to arrange those sentences. Application of grammar, as I said, noun pronoun reference, usage of articles, meaning and usage of connectors, and discourse markers. Right? So when, however, used, and when, however, starts a sentence, what difference does it make? How moreover will be used, and what difference does it make in a sentence? These discourse markers, the usage as well as their application, both. A bit of logic, because as I said, it falls into the parajumble question, falls into the category of verbal logic. Right? So it's going to be the fusion of both your understanding of language and a bit understanding of your logic and reasoning. So, cause and effect. What is going to be the placement of causal statement and the effect statement? Your logic is going to dictate you about the placement of these sentences. Same goes for idea and example. So where does an idea come and where the example is given to substantiate that idea? What is going to be the placement of these two sentences? General to specific. A specific detail should come first or the general statement should come first. So what is going to be their order? Last, thesis and justification. Will author give his justification first and then comes with a C thesis statement, or his thesis statement should be preceded by the justification? Right? So your logic is going to dictate you whether what is going to be the order of these statements. So what you have to develop is the qualities of an active reader. An active reader is going to engage with what he reads. By scanning the first line or the two lines paragraph, he will come to know what the topic of this paragraph, what the topic of this piece of text is. So what that means, the topic and what dimension of the topic is covered in the paragraph. That you have to understand very quickly. Right? So when you read a piece of text, you have to understand what is it that author wants to convey. So the topic as well as which dimension of the topic is covered by the author. So if the topic is nuclear energy, so which dimension of nuclear energy author is covering? Is he talking about the benefits? Is he talking about the disadvantages? Is he talking about processing, the careful processing of nuclear energy or other aspects? So nuclear energy is the topic. These are the dimensions. So which of these dimensions is covered in the paragraph? Understand that, it will be easier for you to order your sentences. Second, an active reader will also ascertain very quickly, in a glance only, that how that idea is expressed. Is author putting forward a thesis and then giving the justification? Is he starting with an anecdote and then giving the general idea? Is he starting with a rhetorical question and then answering it further? So what is his style? How he has put forwarded the idea he has chosen to present. So what and how is, you have to develop the skill to understand what is written and how that idea is written, right? Now, needless to say that since it's a para-jumble question, para-jumble stands for paragraph jumble, we need to have clear understanding of what constitutes a paragraph, right? So it may seem a bit painstaking thing to do for solving para-jumble question, but it's going to be very fundamental to your understanding of para-jumble, because without knowing what is the constitution of a paragraph, you will never come to know what detail you need in that paragraph and what detail is not needed in that paragraph. I'll tell you how this understanding, basic understanding of paragraph, is going to help you in entire verbal ability section. I'll tell you how. Ever since the pattern of CAT changed in 2015, you might have noticed that no question based on grammar, no question based on vocabulary is there. The verbal ability question is predominated by question based on paragraph. Testing your ability to process the idea which is given in a paragraph and assimilate the message and answer the given question followed by that. Look at the question, paragraph jumble. So that is testing your ability of how a paragraph is formed, how a paragraph should be ordered, what is the order of sentence in a paragraph. So basic understanding of a paragraph. Second, odd sentence out. So if you know the role each sentence plays in a paragraph, you will come to know that this sentence you don't need in a paragraph. Go further and understand what all roles, what all parts a sentence plays in a paragraph, easily come to know that this sentence is not playing any role and hence this is odd sentence out. Third, paragraph summary. A paragraph is given, and you have to develop the skill to condense the paragraph in a line. So what is the sum and substance of a paragraph that can be expressed in line? So without understanding the main idea of the paragraph, you cannot find paragraph summary. This paragraph summary is going to encapsulate main theme or main idea given in the paragraph. Right? Again, understanding paragraph becomes all the more imperative. Reading comprehension, which is composed of different paragraphs, right? How an idea is progressed in different paragraphs. So if you understand the constitution of a paragraph, you will easily come to know that when you read a passage, first paragraph talks about this, second paragraph progresses the idea this way, third paragraph possibly brings contrast, and fourth paragraph concludes the idea. So with the constitution of understanding of the constitution of a paragraph, you will have very clear understanding of the entire passage. It's going to be a cakewalk for you if you build this capacity. So last, your writing assessment test. Once you clear the aptitude test, the next phase is going to be your writing assessment test. That is going to test your ability writing a coherent argument on a contemporary issue. The issues are given on current affairs or the issues which are relevant in contemporary times. So what your opinion is, on how relevant that opinion is, and how skillfully you develop your idea to substantiate. That requires a basic understanding of writing good paragraph. If you know how paragraph is drafted, you will have you can easily demonstrate your writing ability in WAT section. So this one understanding is going to give you multifold impact in all these sections, right? So what are you waiting for? Let's get ahead and develop our understanding of what paragraph is, what a paragraph is. So I took this definition from Oxford website, which says that a paragraph is a collection of related sentences dealing with a single topic, right? So if you understand it very clearly, it says that a paragraph deals with a single topic. Singularity of idea is emphasized in a paragraph. Now, there are some elements which are commonly agreed by all authors, all academicians, that these are the elements which a paragraph should have. Right? So first is unity. So unity says, or unity is referred as one controlling idea that entire paragraph revolves around. There has to be one single idea which is conveyed by that paragraph. 2-3 ideas are not going to be jumbled up in a single paragraph. Standard writing convention dictates one paragraph should convey one idea. You should not muddle your idea in one paragraph. So when you encounter these questions, paragraph questions, you will see that author will convey one idea. So that one idea is usually conveyed in a topic sentence. A topic sentence is usually at the very beginning of the paragraph. So you may also find the topic sentence in the middle or in the concluding statement. Invariably, you will see that statement being expressed in the opening of the paragraph or in the introduction of the paragraph. So look for that statement. That the thesis statement, some people call it thesis statement, some people call it topic sentence. You will find it capturing the whole essence of the paragraph, right? So be wary of finding that topic statement. The element 2 says that there has to be an order in the paragraph. The order means the main idea should be there, and then there should be supporting details. If supporting details are supported by examples, they should be followed by examples, right? Or if there are statistics, factual evidence, all these things will be followed by supporting. So they will be part of supporting. So there has to be an order in the paragraph. The order could be in different ways. It could be in the order of chronology, what happened first, what happened later should be ordered that way. or that should be in the order of magnitude. Whatever author feels is more important should be expressed in the first part of the paragraph, and what he feels is less important should be in the last part of the paragraph or in the subsequent part of it. So, whichever order author chooses to put up his idea, a well drafted paragraph will always be well ordered. You will not find disorder in a well drafted paragraph. Right? So an order is one of the prerequisites of having a good paragraph. Third is coherence. So coherence is understood by making your writing understandable and readable for your reader. Right? So with what ease your reader is assimilating your message is the whole work of coherence, bringing coherence in your writing. The coherence can be brought in your writing or in a paragraph by using linking devices like conjunctions or some discourse markers. So the discourse markers will give you, actually they serve as the signpost of what your argument is heading towards or where your idea is heading towards, right? So they are like the signposts. So they are going to bring a lot of clarity about, about your idea and in your presentation as well. So coherence is another thing on which a paragraph is assessed. Fourth element, which is again very important, that is completeness. The completeness is understood by sufficiently develop an idea. So merely introducing an idea is not sufficient, right? Merely introducing an idea is not going to make a paragraph complete. You have to give the supporting details, evidence, support. And you have to include that idea. That is what makes paragraph complete, right? A paragraph has to have a unity, that means there has to be a single idea. A paragraph has to have an order, that means main idea, supporting details, conclusion. That's how it should be ordered. Third, coherence, that means there should be clarity that is put forwarded by linking devices, discourse markers, conjunction, and pronoun references. And the completeness, that means the conclusion has to be. I hope we have some clarity about what a paragraph should have, right? And let's try to apply this understanding on this paragraph. So when you analyze this paragraph, you will clearly see the definite start, which is red marked. Organization cannot exist without communication. So this statement is the topic statement of the paragraph, which is going to illustrate the details further. If there is no communication, employees cannot know what their associates are doing. So this tells you the detail. Management cannot receive information inputs and management cannot give instruction. Now, this is the supporting detail. The second supporting detail is cooperation also becomes impossible because people cannot communicate their needs and feelings to others. The paragraph starts with an opening statement, that's the topic statement, followed by two supporting details. Then the conclusion comes. You can say with some confidence every act of communication influences the organization in some way. So the details that we discussed in the earlier slide, you see that unity of idea is here. There is one singular idea expressed in this paragraph. The communication is very important for an organization. It has coherence because the discourse markers are used, because, moreover, right? So they are used here to bring clarity. You see that it has completeness. So it has sufficiently developed the idea by giving supporting details. It also has order. So the main idea comes first, the supporting details later, and then you see the concluding statement bringing a climax to the idea. So this is the order of the sentence, and this is how a paragraph is composed. We get one more paragraph just to apply your understanding of paragraph is the root cause of childhood attention deficit disorder is difficult to determine. Right? So this starts with an opening statement. It starts with a topic statement, which is going to set the tone of entire paragraph. While genetics can help, so while is there, which is giving you direction that where this argument is heading, right? So the supporting detail is possibly bringing a contrast or bringing a discount to the idea. Then you see environmental factors such as social interaction, attachment, and other factors can also play a huge role. Can also play a huge role. So this is another discourse marker which is giving you an idea about the tone of the author. Right? So the first statement is your topic statement given by two details. Let's see the ending statement. It says the researchers suggest the genetic and environmental interaction may both be important in conditioning the risk of AD. The author has replaced the full form with AD, as well as its severity and progression. So the idea which he expressed at the beginning finds its conclusion or in kind of reiteration lastly. So these two paragraphs have been taken from standard journals where the author have tried to conform to the standard convention of writing. Okay? So let's now try to apply this understanding of solving some paradigmatic question. I've taken a mixed bag of questions which appeared in previous year CAT and which appeared in other management exams. So one of the principles, two of the principal strategies which are going to help you in solving paradigmatic questions are finding opening statement, and finding mandatory pair. So mandatory pair and opening statement, these are two strategies which are going to help you in finding your answer in paradigm. So mandatory pair is a pair of sentence which has to come after the other. So there is some inherent link between two statements which make them go after the other. Right? So because of some link, because of some grammatical link, because of some verbal link, or because of some logical link, there's some connection in these two sentences, and in your answer it has to be A and B, not B and A. So if you can play around with your mandatory pair, you can fetch your answer very easily. So let's try to discuss some strategies to find opening statement first, and then we will talk about how you can go for your mandatory pair, find your mandatory pair. All right, so as I said, grammar is also going to play a huge role in solving paradigmatic questions. So here comes grammar. Understanding noun or understanding the subject of your sentence. As I said, topic sentence is always going to express the subject. So what the subject of that sentence is, or what is the main theme of that entire paragraph, you have to find that. That is usually a noun. Invariably, that is a noun. So the first sentence invariably states the noun that represents the topic of the sentence, what that noun is, and how that noun is going to be represented, how that noun is going to be replaced by pronoun or other nouns. Now, in subsequent sentences, the noun is replaced with pronoun or other noun for coherence. This is how the referencing is done in a paragraph. You don't keep repeating one noun or one name, but you replace it with suitable pronoun. Now let's see with some example that how writing can be so clumsy if author keeps on going for one continuously. So the absence of suitable pronoun. First sentence say the director said that the director was in a hurry. Right? Sentence is the director was late for picking the director's sister up at the airport, but the director did not know where the airport. You see two words getting repeated here, director and airport. Now, look at the way the pronoun brings clarity in these two sentences. The first says the director said that he was in a hurry. He is going to bring clarity who this man is. The man is director. He was late for picking his sister up at the airport, but he did not know where it was. It is referring airport. So it pronoun is referring airport. He is referring to the director. Now, how this understanding of noun and pronoun reference bring clarity about Parajumble question. In parajumble question, let's assume your first sentence, the opening statement which is given in a jumble form is second. He was late for picking his sister up at the airport. Invariably, pronoun is not going to open your paragraph because you don't have this clarity who this man is who is being referred as he, who he was, and whose sister. So this clarity is not there. This ambiguity, author is not going to leave any ambiguity. He's not going to leave the message on the interpretation of the writer. He's going to make it very clear who this man is, and then this man is going to be referred as he. So this understanding of noun and pronoun will bring a lot of clarity. Look at this sentence as well. As I said, noun can also be replaced with another noun. Do not always look for pronoun as the replacement of. The author can replace one noun with the other synonym. Look at the sentence. Every writer will experience writer's block at some point in his career. He has used is for writer. He will suddenly be unable to move on in his work. A lot of people have written about this obstacle. Now look at this phrase. This obstacle is actually preceding writer's block. Instead of repeating this word, he used block as the obstacle. Because a writer's block is something which impedes the flow of thoughts of the writer. So here, writer's block is not repeated. Instead, obstacle is used for referring to writers. Let's go further, presenting different strategies to beat the block. However, different methods. Now, instead of using strategies again, he has replaced strategies with another noun replacing strategies. Work for methods, work for different people. Each writer must find the solutions that work best for it. So you see three words being used different way. So strategies replaced by methods, and later on methods are replaced by solutions. You have to look for these links as well, ascertain what this strategy is talking about or what these methods are referring to. So noun is not always replaced with pronoun. Noun can also be replaced with another synonym. Be wary of that. Now let's try to apply this understanding of noun and pronoun on a question. Now the first statement says he was one of the finest actors India has produced. The statement says he even represented Indian cinematic legacy in Western cinema. Puri breathed his last this year. Fourth sentence says, ironically, in Oscar he was remembered, but Indian award shows gave him this. So if you see closely, you can easily eliminate two options here, which are beginning with A and B. Because he was one of the finest actors, is not mentioned who this actor is. B, he even same problem. Two options can be eliminated to minimize your confusion. So A and B, we don't have any option beginning with B, but we have an option beginning with A. So C is eliminated basically. Now you have C and D as the opening statement. Let's go for the sentence which has a noun. As we understood that noun has to come first, followed by pronoun. So Om Puri breathed his last this year is going to be an opening statement here because this introduces the subject and this has a noun. Right? So this is how it is actually going to be very easier for you for solving the parajumble question if you apply this understanding of noun and pronoun to solving this question. Let's do one question previous year CAT where this understanding of noun and pronoun can be used. Again, your A statement is beginning with he was born weary and soul weary. B statement, to his horror. Again, that option can also be eliminated for not being the opening statement because it starts with a pronoun. C. It was one of those nights in the office when the office clock was moving towards 4 in the morning and Venice was still not through with the incredible mass of pain. So here we are introduced with a subject, right? So the subject is noun here, Venice. He says he reached. So another statement which is beginning with he. So you can outrightly, you know, eliminate these statements for not being the opening statement of your paragraph. So C becomes, by default, C becomes your opening statement, and hence that is your answer. Answer is second, because it has a noun, right? So noun and pronoun understanding will come a long way in bringing some accuracy in your manageable questions. Now, another strategy for finding opening statement is acronym approach. So if there are two sentences in a paragraph and one of them is using acronym and another is using full name or full form, then the statement which uses full form is going to be preceded by the statement which uses acronym. Again, as I said, the author is not going to leave the understanding on your interpretation. He will make it very, very clear in a standard paragraph written by a standard author. He will make it very, very clear that what this word is and how that word will be known later on. Right? So the first statement is going to make it very clear that WTO or World Health Organization will be referred as WTO. WTO is World Trade Organization. So that way, the full form and the short form sentence, you have to see it very carefully if it is using short form and full. The both forms are used in a paragraph. The short form sentence will come later, full form sentence will come first. Same goes for someone's designation and someone's surname, right? So if a sentence is Mr. Modi, right, or uses Mr. Modi, so you do not know who this Mr. Modi is. It could be Lalit Modi, it could be Narendra Modi, it could be Neelam Modi, it could be another Modi, right? And all can be correct in different contexts. You need this clarity who this Mr. Modi is, right? So first sentence will bring that clarity, and then possibly author is going to use Mr. Modi. If he uses Lalit Modi, then he would use Mr. Modi. Right? So Sabi will be used later on. The first full name of the person will be used. Same goes for designation. There are a couple of questions in previous year papers where the designation was used. First name and the designation, and then you use the only the designation of the person. So George Bush, you can use the president, right? But you make it clear in the very first sentence that who Mr. President is, right? So one of the questions uses the CEO of White House. Later, CEO of White House is replaced with Mr. President, right? So here, the designation will come later. First, author is going to make it clear who this president is. It could be president of a federation, it could be president of a country, it could be a president of any association, right? Who this president is. First, he's going to make it clear, and then he's going to use the designation. All right. So again, this simple strategy and bit of the application of your logic is going to help you in bringing your answer. Now let's see how that understanding of acronym in full form we can apply in this question. So first sentence is, if you are used to having a stimulation coming from outside, your mind never develops its own habit of thinking and reflecting. So that it could be an opening statement. Now, B statement says Marx thought that religion was the opiate. So it uses Marx, right? So Marx is possibly being used for Karl Marx. C says if Karl Marx was alive today. So this sentence is using full name, Marx, and B sentence is using only Marx. So when you find your order of the sentence, you can place C first and B later on. It may not be an immediate after C, but it is definitely going to be after C, right? So with that, you can see your options. So C and D are opening with C. So Karl Marx was alive today, he would say that television is the opiate of the Now, if it is followed by B, let's see, Marx thought that religion was the opiate because it soothed people's pain and suffering and prevented them from rising in rebellion. This is extending the idea further because it says why he thought religion was the opiate, right? So, as we understood the paragraph, introduction of the topic, extending that idea further. So, B is actually extending that idea. That is why the statement start with C followed by, right? So up to some extent, this understanding of acronym is going to help you eliminating some options. CAT, but other exam because CAT is not going to give you any option, but you will also have to apply other strategy. It's going to minimize your confusion because your options are going to be eliminated, but to choose the right answer, you will have to apply other skills as well. Let's see this previous year CAT question where this acronym approach is being applied. So A statement says Michael Hoffman, a poet and translator, accept this sorry fact. So I can eliminate this option because it says this sorry fact. So what this sorry fact is, what this sorry state of thing is, I don't know. So A is eliminated. So A is eliminated means second option is not my answer. B, thanklessness, but thanklessness and impossibility do not daunt him. Again, him, I have a pronoun, whereas I understood that I need a noun first. He acknowledges, again, starting with a pronoun. B says Hoffman feels passionately about his work. Hoffman and Michael Hoffman. I have two sentences, one using full name, another using only surname. Just understood what should be the order. Name, the full name comes first, followed by the statement which uses only surname. So A should be preceded by D. A के बाद ही D आना चाहिए. That's what we have understood here. He says in terms of gap between birth and rewards, translators come somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. So here, this is the opening statement. This then it also gets connected to Michael Hoffman. He accepts this sorry fact. This sorry fact is that translators are not rewarded for what they do, right? This sorry fact is accepted by Michael Hoffman without approval or complaint. So mandatory here. So E becomes your opening statement, A becomes your statement followed. So followed by C is he acknowledges two in fact. But thanklessness and impossibility do not daunt him. He feels passionately about his work and this is clear from his writing. That's how the idea is concluded by D. Right? So acronym, full name, and designation. Be wary of these things. These subtle things make a lot of difference. Now, one more strategy for finding your opening statement is indication of time. So, as we discussed in previous slides, that what are the qualities of an active reader? So, active reader quickly understand what is written by the author and how that is written, right? So, how that is written means what is the chronology of it, or how that the details are given. Right? So, if the chronology has been chosen by the author, that means the order of the details is given as chronology. That means must have used some words and phrases which indicate timeline of it. So he either dates or time sequence indicating words, or he does it by using some phrases. So be mindful of these phrases like before, after, later, when, then. They are going to indicate which action happens first and which action should be followed. Let's look at one question where this understanding can be applicable. So you have two statements which are using these time indicating references. First statement says, then two astronomers, Kepler and Galileo, started publicly to support the Copernicus theory. Then, that means इसके पहले कुछ हुआ होगा which led to their support. Another is D. Nearly a century passed before this idea was taken seriously. Before. So this is also indicating time. This idea is also giving you a reference. right? A preceding reference which you have to connect this sentence with. Now, if you see, as we again go by our understanding of paragraph, we will try to see the topic sentence and then supporting details and concluding statement. So we see here C as the opening statement. Two options are saying that C could be the opening statement. We have overruled A and D. So let's see C as the opening statement. A simple model was proposed in 1450 by Polish priest Nicholas Copernicus. A model was introduced. Then he says, nearly a century passed before this idea was taken seriously, right? So C has to be followed by D, and then the two astronomers, you know, publicly supported Copernicus theory. And we have another sentence B which says his idea was that the sun was stationary at the center and the earth and the planet moves in circular orbit around the sun. So C is followed by B because it further gives the detail of the idea. He proposed a model. What was that model? The idea was that the sun was stationary. And then nearly a century passed before this idea was taken. So these time indicating references are making it very clear that what should be the order of the sentence. Right? All right, so as I said, other than your grammatical knowledge or your understanding of writing convention, you also have to apply logic here. So the logic says usually the paragraph is drafted in a deductive way. So the general details are given first and then the specific details are given later on. The specific example or the specific details are given later on. So idea is introduced with a general idea and then the specific details followed. I've just given this these examples to reiterate my point that if animal is a general idea, then tiger would be an example. If acids are a general idea, then sulfuric acids will be an example. If you talk about food in the first sentence, later on, if you go into the specific details, you will talk about Italian food, and then you give example as burger. Right? So this is how the chronology goes. This is how the sequencing of details go. You talk about general thing first, then you talk about specific, then you give an example to illustrate or to extension. This is usually the order of idea. This is usually the order of a paragraph. So now look at this example. Now the first sentence says language is the roadmap of a culture. It starts with a very mutualistic statement. Language is the roadmap of a culture. It tells you where its people come from and where they are going. Right? This introduces an idea. A study of English language. This gives a very specific languages and then specific language, English language. For example, a study of English language reveals a dramatic history, astonishing versatility. Right? So here, this detail comes later. The idea, the general idea comes first. So whenever you are confused between two options, and it invariably happens that stuck between two options because options are designed in a way where two statements, one talks about general and one talks about specific detail, are given. You have to choose general statement as the introduction and the specific detail as supporting detail. Usually that should be the order of a paragraph. Now let's try to see this one more paragraph to understand how specific details are given later on. So yoga benefits people who practice it in many ways. But most are interested in yoga's effect on the body. So this is topic sentence. So this introduces the idea in a very generalistic way. It says all people. People means generally all people. When I began yoga, now it starts to talk about a personal experience of yoga. When I began yoga 3 years ago, I was a jogger and swimmer. I very much liked an aerobic workout, one that got my heart beating fast, so I was suspicious of the seeming slowness of yoga, specific details level. So this is how you see the subsequent specific details which this paragraph is graduating towards. In fact, I was amazed at how sore I was after a 1.5 hour class. I learned Yasana. I realized how much energy and concentration it took to hold a pose and breathe appropriately. Right? So very minute detail about performing an asana, performing yoga. So from general way about people's perception of yoga to a very specific detail of how a person felt when he performed. So this should be the order. This is usually the order, unless author fiddles with all the conventions of writing and he uses his poetic license and he, does not conform to any writing convention. The standard author is going to write his details, general details first, and then your specific details. Let's try to apply this understanding of general to specific on a previous year question of CAT. So this question has been taken from the year in which CAT has 6-sentence paragraph. So the first sentence starting with but in industrial era, you can see it's a very specific detail because it's talking about industrial era. When you talk about past, then you came to industrial era. You talk about economic, revolution time. Then you come to industrial era. Then it makes sense, right? So right away, starting a sentence with industrial era does not make sense. Anyway, you are not given it A as the opening statement as well. So let's not read it. B is not the opening statement, but you see, so in the agrarian era. Again, a very specific detail. C says now in the information era. So other than solving this question, we are also developing our understanding of the paragraph formation, how a standard paragraph should be drafted. So these are very specific detail. One is talking about industrial era, information era, and agrarian era. So very specific details of past. Now D is one of the opening statement. How do you do better with your enemy? Is with a question mark, it's a rhetorical question. He says the idea is to destroy the enemy's productive capacity, and depending upon the economic foundation, that productivity capacity is different. Right? So, which sentence do you feel would be the opening statement? E and F says, with regard to defense, the purpose of the military is to defend the nation and be prepared to do battle with its enemy, which is more journalistic and which is talking about specific dimension of that part. I hope you chose F as your opening statement because it introduces the topic of what is the purpose of having a defense department. What is the purpose of defense? What is the main objective of defense, right? And then it says, how do you do battle with your enemy? The F statement says, defend the nation and be prepared to do battle with its enemy. But how do you do battle with your enemy? He is taking this message forward, and then if you see, he is answering that question. How do you do battle with your enemy? You destroy their productive capacity. अग्रेरियन एरा में आप ऐसा करते थे, इंडस्ट्रियल एरा में आपने ये किया, एंड अब इंफॉर्मेशन एरा में आप ये कर रहे हैं. This is how these three details are answering this question that how do you decimate the productive capacity of your enemy. All right. The specific details followed by general statement. First statement is going to talk about the general statement, and later on you will find specific details. Follow this rule, right? Whenever you are stuck between two options. Okay, another dimension of grammar comes here, article, right? So articles are also going to be an important tool in understanding your opening statement or ascertaining what your opening statement is. It will help you immensely in overruling some statement which cannot be your opening. If you are clear with the concept. So for that, I would advise you go through the concept of article so that you apply this concept on paragraph questions. So just to give you a brief, detail of article. So we have three articles, A and the. A and are not definite article; they are indefinite article. There is the definite article. So when I say I bought a mobile yesterday or I bought the mobile yesterday, which sounds correct? Which of these sentences sound correct? Of course, I'm not going to judge your knowledge, but most of you would say, I bought a mobile yesterday. Right? Because We are mentioning this article for the first time. We are mentioning mobile, an object for the first time. So whenever you introduce a subject for the first time in a sentence, you will use article A or N, right? Depending on which letter the word is beginning with. So you will introduce with A and N, and then you say if you want to use that article, if you want to use that object again, then proceed that with the. So I can say I bought a mobile yesterday, but the mobile is not functioning properly. I can say the mobile here in the second sentence, in the next sentence. Because you and I know which mobile I'm talking about, the one I bought yesterday, right? So this is how first their understanding is established, which object we are referring to, and then I can use the before that now. Subsequent. Same rule applies when writing. So when author talks about a common noun, he will not use the article. Unless the same sentence mentions that further. We'll come to exception later on. So if he introduces a common noun in a sentence, we'll use A or N for them. And later on, when he uses the same noun or replacement of that noun, he will use the. So being mindful of those words which are preceded by definite article, the. That means they have found some reference in the previous state. If the article is being used before a word, possibly that word has already been referred to. Find that difference in another sentence and then find your answer, right? Easier said than done. Let's try to apply this on this question. All right, so I have boldface this part which is beginning with the decision, I mean the sentence which is beginning with the decision. I boldface this part of the sentence. A says the decision. So A can be eliminated for not being the opening statement because what this decision was, what this step was, I'm not clear. I'm not clear about what this step was. A cannot be opening statement, hence you can eliminate A as the option. So A is not the opening statement. Now this decision has to be linked with another statement. You have to find that statement very quickly, browse through the sentences and come up with a sentence which is connecting with the decision. So C statement says government demonetized all high currency notes overnight. It's talking about demonetization, right? It was a step. Now author has not given, author has referred this step as the decision. C begins your paragraph and followed by D. It brought all financial proceedings at standstill. It pronoun is referring to this step, right? And then C is starting the sentence, D is taking it forward. Though it brought all financial proceeding at standstill, though its implications are yet to be seen in a long run, the decision, no. So A should be followed by D. The decision is being scrutinized by all leading financial institutions, though its implications are yet to be seen in long run. B sounds like concluding statement, right? Author is skeptical, whoever has written this paragraph is skeptical whether this is going to have any far-reaching effect or not. So its implications are yet to be seen. So the decision is referring to the step which was taken by. So here A was eliminated because common noun decision was preceded by article, the definite article, right? So please apply this understanding of article, definite article though. Another strategy or another tip that I can give you to find your opening statement is, like we said or we discussed, the general statement will be given first and the specific examples will be given later on. So if specific details are not given, author might have given an example. So that example will always be followed by an idea, right? So because example is in service of the idea. Example is put forwarded in order to support the idea, in order to augment the idea. So if any sentence is working as an example and you identify that as an example, place it after the sentence for which it is working as an example, right? So not necessarily just after it, because one has to explain the idea, but it has to be in that order only. I mean, the example has to be followed by the idea, not right after it, but after it. Now look at this. Uh, Look at this example. I have boldfaced this part. In the case of sportsperson, in the case of sportsperson is specific detail because it's talking about an example. C says a case in the point is the hefty penalty of US $10,000. Here, this is an example. Case in point is for instance, right? For example. So whenever you have these phrases, they indicate exemplification. So whenever an example is given, try to connect it with the idea because example is always in support of the idea. Try to connect that with the idea. So here, let's again try to apply our understanding of the paragraph. Let's try to work with the options. So either C or D is your opening statement, right? So C cannot be your opening statement because that's an example. So by default, D becomes your opening statement. He says it is a matter of deep regret and concern that the sports administrator often cause more harm to the image of the country than sportsmen and sportswomen do through the dismal performance. Right? So it introduces an idea that sports authority it may create more embarrassing situation than sportsperson and sportswomen do. So what it should be followed by? B is either followed by B or D is either followed by. Potential exchanges between the officials of IBBF. Now please try to apply this uh, acronym approach here. IBBF, we don't know what this is. So here IBBF should always be followed by its full form. So let's see if there is a sentence which is using its full form. Yes, there is a sentence using the full form Indian Bodybuilding Federation. Does this sentence be used in by a statement? So your answer. It should be followed by C and then it should be followed by, right? Now, another strategy which gives you the mandatory pair of the sentence, mandatory pair in a paragraph is the transition words. As we discussed, the important elements of a paragraph is coherence, and the coherence is brought by using the transition words. The transition words which are going to link the sentences skillfully with each other, and they are going to complete the paragraph. So these transition words have different tones. If you use however, that's going to signal a different tone, and if you use moreover, that's going to use in a different context. So if you have the understanding of these transition words and their application, how they are applied in a sentence, you will have crystal clarity about connecting these two sentences which are joined by these transition phrases. Okay? Let me give you an example. So for contrast, these phrases are used like but, however, whereas, while, despite, nonetheless. Whereas, in order to give the addition to your idea, moreover, furthermore, also, these transition phrases be used. There are plenty more phrases that you have to be familiar with in order to know their application. Because if you don't know what nonetheless means and how this is applied in a sentence, then you won't be able to apply the strategy in finding the mandatory pair. So it is highly advisable that you go through the list of these transition phrases, know their tonal, dimension, and then also see how they are applied in a sentence. Now I have used three linking words, similar sentence, right? And just try to develop your understanding of what kind of idea you need before this sentence, right? So if the sentence is beginning with moreover, she has been managing her career extremely well. The idea is starting with moreover. So what kind of idea do you need before this sentence, which is going to bind these two sentences? Second sentence is, however, she has been managing her career extremely well. Right? What kind of idea do you need before this sentence? Third is, hence she has been managing her career extremely well. Similar sentence, starting with different linking words, starting with different discourse markers. How it is going to change the sentence which is needed before that to make a meaningful sentence, right? So this changes your option. Understanding these phrases and understanding the application of these phrases change your option completely, right? So that is the whole purpose of making this slide, that you need a different idea with moreover, you need a different idea with however. So look at this sentence. These are complete sentences. Resham has proven herself to be a hands-on mother. Moreover, she has been managing her career extremely well. So moreover is giving you additional detail. Is going to take the idea further, a step further, right? And it is going to bring a kind of force into the argument. Moreover, यही नहीं but ये भी moreover. So that's going to bring a more force into your argument. Resham had a few setbacks in her family this year. However, she has been managing her career extremely well. So there was an adverse situation in her family, उसके बावजूद, right? This is what the idea is conveyed by however, right? So when you have however, you need a different idea before that. Rachel is truly a skilled multitasker, hence she has been managing her career extremely well. Here, first is a cause, second is the. Since she is a multitasker, she has been managing her career extremely. Just to give you a clarity about these linking devices or these discourse markers, how they change the meaning of sentence. So if there is a sentence starting with moreover, try to anticipate the idea that you need before the sentence in order to complete this whole idea. So always look for these discourse markers. Cat question. Okay, so we did that earlier. Now these are demonstrative pronouns or demonstrative adjectives. So demonstrative pronouns and adjectives also give you some indication about the noun or the subject which these sentences signal or which these phrases signal, right? So if this is this, if you remember, there was a question of Michael Hoffman. So Michael Hoffman accepts this sorry fact without complaint. This sorry fact. So it directed me to another sentence. So what is that sorry fact is, right? These decisions, these incidents have created a lot of uproar in Bollywood. When I say these incidents have created a lot of uproar in Indian film industry. So what these incidents are? Definitely talking about something which has happened, which has created a lot of uproar. What these incidents are. So it is directing me towards another statement which is going to talk about some development, some happening. This sentence is, referencing. Such decisions are very difficult to be taken by coalition government. So if a sentence is this, such decisions are very difficult to be taken by a coalition government. So here, I'm possibly talking about a decision which was not taken by a coalition government, and it is linking me towards another sentence. So please see carefully if any of these sentences in your jumble sentences is using these demonstrative pronouns or adjectives. They will definitely signal that something is being talked about that you have to connect with. So I have taken one previous year CAT question which is going to illustrate this rule very clearly. So A says since then. So since then means tab se. That means I'm talking about a time reference. Tab jab se ye ho raha hai. So I'm not having this as the opening. I cannot have this as an opening statement. In other words, intelligence tests give us a noun for each age. So B is also eliminated as the opening statement. Anyway, it's also not given as the opening statement, any of the options. So you're given either C, B, or E. So C says intelligence is expressed as intelligence quotient and tests are developed to indicate what an average child of a certain age can do. B says he developed the first set of such tests, right? So such test clearly indicates that we are talking about some kinds of tests where this sentence is referencing as such test. That is not my opening statement either, right? Intelligence can be measured by a test. So with such test, since then. So since then needs a time reference. So time reference is also given in early 90s. That makes mandatory pair. So E is opening statement which says intelligence can be measured by test. B says Binet developed the first set of such tests, intelligence tests. So you find the reference in the early 90s, find out which children in school needed special attention. Since then, time reference is also clear. In 90s, these tests were developed. Since then, intelligence tests. So you have a trio, mandatory trio where E, D, and A. Just because you understood these demonstrative pronouns clearly, right? So then and since made this question very easy for us. All right. So here we come to the end of today's session. In next class, I will talk about some more strategies for finding the mandatory pair. I will also talk about some exceptions where these rules will not be applicable. Right. So I did not incorporate those slides today because kind of feel cognitive dissonance if you are told rule and then and there you are given the exception of the rule, right? I would like all of you to assimilate these rules, do some practice of previous CAT papers with these rules, and tomorrow I'll tell you where or in which circumstances these rules may not be applicable. Because ultimately, you have to understand that writing is a creative art. Every writer has a poetic license. He can fiddle away these rules. He can devise his own rules for writing and expressing his art, and he may defy all the standard norms of writing. Right? We have seen in some exams like ZAD where in parajumble question a poem was given, right? So we have to be prepared for such kinds of contingencies. So we also need to go through those exceptions, right? So in next session, I'm going to cover some more strategies for parajumble. With that, I'll also cover the exception where these rules will not be applicable, may not be applicable. If you're familiar with these circumstances, you may not be startled when these rules are not applicable in one of the questions that you encountered. Right? Now, very quickly, let's try to sum up what we learned today. Follow general to specific rule. Invariably, this is going to be applicable for general rule, general detail, followed by specific rule. Spot the article, right? So an and the. We will also see how this rule may not be applicable in very limited circumstances. Noun and pronoun relationship, you always find a subject, that is usually a noun in the opening statement, followed by pronoun or followed by another synonym of the noun. Identify chronology. If author has chosen to order the sentence in a chronological way, identify that chronology and then sequence your sentence accordingly. See the transition in words. Transition in words means the references, linking words, and those adjectives and pronoun that we just discussed, right? Demonstrative adjectives. Keywords, linking words. We did that in one slide. Look for the last sentence. So usually in the end, thus, finally, hence, therefore, they indicate that the sentence is heading towards conclusion or the idea is heading towards climax. So if you find out these words, reserve that sentence as your concluding statement. All right. So thank you very much for watching this video, being part of this session today. I hope I could help you in some way in bringing some clarity about parajumble. Let me help you more with my knowledge and my expertise and my wisdom that I have gained. And enroll for my course. If you find it worthy, you can enroll for my course. I can help you with your preparation for CAT this year. Thank you very much.